Good morning, students. Today our topic is computer system, and in this lecture we are going to discuss about computer system. So let's start. This is unit 1, as you know. So what is a computer system? A computer system is basically a compose of input, output and processing devices, and it processes the data and instruction given by the user. That means people here. So these are the different parts of a computer system: input device, mouse is input device, mouse is an input device, and then monitor is an output device, speaker is also an output device, keyboard is an input device, printer is also an output device, and then system unit. System unit contains CPU and memory. So basically computer converts data into information. Data is nothing but only the raw facts, figures, statics which we insert into the computer system, and computer system process it, and after the processing it gives us information. So that is the basic functioning of a computer system. Now we can say that a computer system is an electronic device that can perform mathematical operations, logical operations and graphical operations. So three different types of operation can be performed by an electronic device, which is called a computer system. And these are mathematical operations, means addition, subtraction, multiplication. Logical operations, we can compare two elements in terms of less than, greater than, less than, equal to, greater than, equal to. These are some logical operations, and some graphical operations also. So a computer is an electronic machine that makes mathematical calculations and logical comparisons quickly and without any mistakes. That is my most important point: quickly and without any mistake. And computer takes data, process them according to a list of instructions, and show or store the result of the processing. They can store the result forever. They can store the result forever. So in computer system we can store the result forever, and they convert data into information. That is our computer system. So computer system is an electronic machine that makes mathematical calculations and logical comparisons. A computer can process data, pictures, sounds and graphics. They can solve highly complicated problems quickly and accurately. A computer, has shown in figure, performs basically 5 major computer operations or functions irrespective of the size and make, and these are the functions of a computer system. First of all, it accepts data and instructions by way of input. Second, it stores the data. Third, it can process data as required by the user, means according to the instructions. It gives result in the forms of output, that is also called an information, and it controls all operation inside the computer system. So these are the 5 basic features of or work of a computer system. So accept the data, store the data, process the data, gives us the output, and control the data. So these are the 5 basic features of a computer systems. And in short, we can say that the computer system is an electronic machine which accepts the data and gives us the output. So this is the block diagram of a computer systems. When we talk about the block diagram, it simply means that write the different parts of a computer system in the forms of a block and interconnect to each other by the sign of arrow. Now if we divide computer system into 4 different parts, then we have input unit, output unit, central processing unit and second storage unit. These are the 4 different parts of a computer systems. So first of all, write all these units in the forms of a block. You can easily see that first block represent input unit, second block represent output unit, third block represent central processing unit, and fourth block represent storage unit. We write storage unit and central processing unit outside the box because central processing unit again divided into two parts. These are control unit and arithmetical and logical unit, and storage unit divided again into two parts, secondary storage and primary storage. So we write these parts in the forms of a box here. Now we just connect these parts to each other. First of all, user give the data to computer system through input devices. So you can easily see that here data is written and the arrow mark from data to input unit, and then input unit accept the data and send it to the storage unit. So there is again an arrow mark for input unit to storage unit. In storage unit there are two arrows pointing towards secondary storage to primary storage in upward and downward direction. It means we can send data, computer can send data from storage, secondary storage to primary storage, or from primary storage to secondary storage. And then again this data is sent to central processing unit. It simply means that sent to central processing unit, and it also gets the data from central processing unit. So arrow both in upward and downward direction here. Next you can easily see that there is an arrow from second storage unit to output unit. It means data is sent from storage unit to output unit, and output unit gives us information, that is the process data, that is the raw data, raw facts figures what we insert into the computer, that is called the data, and what we get from the computer system is called the information. Now you can also see here that line in the dotted form is also there, and all parts are connected to each other through control units. So basically these are the control signals. So as I told you that CPU control all the different parts of a computer systems, and in CPU, inside the CPU there is a control unit which basically control the entire operation in the computer system. So here all different parts of a computer system are connected through control unit, which basically sends control signals, receives the control signals, and work according to them. So these control signals are represented by arrow lines, and you can easily see here that control unit, control signal are also sent from control unit to arithmetical and logical unit, means another part of a computer, another part of a CPU, and also from there is a line from control unit to input unit, which means control signals are also sent from control unit to input unit, and line dotted line, all dotted line is also there from control unit to output unit, and control unit to storage unit, means all parts are connected through control unit. Now here at the bottom you can easily see that two different description of two different lines are there. When we talk about arrow, simply arrow, then this is the data flow. This tells the direction of the data flow, and dotted line means control flow. So control flow signals are there. So these are the different line symbols of symbols to represent the data flow and the control flow. Now when we talk about the storage unit is basically divided into two different parts, secondary storage and the primary storage. In secondary storage, basically data is stored permanently, and in short or we can say that storage unit, secondary storage represent here hard disk. So hard disk represent secondary storage unit represent hard disk. So data is stored permanently into secondary storage unit, and then after that it goes from secondary storage unit to primary storage unit, means hard disk to RAM, that is hard disk, and that is RAM. hard disk to RAM, random access memory, and then random access memory to CPU. Inside the CPU, you can easily see that two boxes are here. First represent control unit and second represent arithmetical and logical unit. As I told you earlier, that control unit control the entire operation of a computer system, and there is another unit called arithmetical and logical unit, which basically perform arithmetic and logical operations. When we talk about the arithmetical operation, it means that addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, these type of operations. And logical on unit operation, logical unit basically perform logical operations, means less than, greater than, less than, equal to, greater than, equal to. These all are the logical operations. And data, and now let us talk about input unit and output unit. So input unit and output unit basically represent input devices and output devices. So we insert the data to input, we give the data to input device, and input device then process the data, actually convert the data into binary form, and then send it to the secondary storage. And what we get from the computer system is called the information, and this information is given by output unit. So different output units represent different output devices here. So this is the block diagram. Now I think you are able to understand the block diagram of these computer systems. Next, you can, now this is a description of the block diagram of the computer system. So first of all, computer system is divided into four different parts: input unit, output unit, CPU, that is central processing unit, and storage unit, which store the data. This input unit accept the data, output unit provide the data to us, CPU basically process the data, and storage unit store the data. Next, data and information. In simple word, we can say that unprocessed raw facts and figures are called the data, and the processed data is called the information. That is the simplest definition of data and information. Unprocessed raw facts and figures are called the data, and processed data is called the information. Means meaningful form of the data is called the information. So it is just like that. I told you a story, and I want to know what is the moral of the story. And suppose you say that the honesty is the best policy is the moral of the story. Now in this case, the content of the story is called the data, and the moral of the story is called the information. It simply means that in computer system, the unprocessed raw facts figures are called the data. It means what you give to the computer system, that is the forms of our data, and this data is any statics, facts, figures, pictures in the forms of also sound. So all these are the types of, and all these are the categorized into form of a data. And then after, computer system process the data, and we get after that information, that is the meaningful form of the data. So that is very important difference between this data and information. And there is another example. Suppose I add two numbers, and these two numbers are 5 and 7. After that we get a result 12. It means here 5 and 7 are the data, and 12 is the information, because after processing we get the 12. So we cannot if I just give you this information 5, 7, 12, then you cannot say that 5 is the data, or 7 is the data, or 12 is the data, or all these are the information. It only depend on the fact that what is unprocessed and what is the processed. So the processed data is called the information. What we get after the processing is called the information. And now suppose here 12 is the information. Again, if we add 12 plus 2, then now this time 12 is data, and whatever we get after that, that is a 14. So 14 is information. So the difference is very simple. Unprocessed raw fact figures are called the data, and processed data is called the information. That is the difference between data and information. So computer accepts data and gives us information after processing. The difference is very simple. Unprocessed raw facts and figures are called the data, and processed data is called the information, or we can say that meaningful form of the data is called the information. Next is input unit. So an input unit is a generalized term in computer science for any device which can be attached to a computer system and which can gather data from the real world so that it can be processed. And different input units are given here: keyboards, mouse, joystick, microphone, web camera. These all are the input units. So input unit is a generalized term in computer science for any device which can be attached to a computer system and which can gather data from the real world so that it can be processed. That is the definition of input unit. So the functions of the input unit, basically it converts inputted data into binary codes and it sends data to main memory of computer system. It sends data to main memory of a computer system. So input unit is a unit that accepts data, any input device that accepts any input device, and the input device is used to input data into the computer system. And there are two different functions of a there are two basic functions of an input unit. First of all, it converts the inputted data into binary codes, and second, it sends data to main memory of computer. So we can say that input unit not only accept the data but also it converts the data into binary form, and finally it sends data to main memory of a computer system. Main memory means primary memory of a computer system. Next is storage devices. And the term storage is defined as the devices which stores data given by the input unit or input devices or output devices after processing. And they are mainly two types of storage unit, and the two types of storage units are primary storage and secondary storage. So we can divide storage into two broad categories: primary storage and secondary storage. Primary storage is basically a volatile storage, and secondary storage is permanent storage or non-volatile storage. So after processing, if you want to store the data permanently, data goes to secondary storage, and what we receive from the input device, that data goes to primary storage for further processing. Now the primary storage, these are also called as the main memory. So primary memory or primary storage is also called the main memory, and the data or set of instruction is stored in primary storage before processing, and later the data is transferred to ALU, means arithmetical and logical unit, where further processing is done. So the primary storage cannot store huge amount of data, and the data stored in this memory is temporary, means volatile. So data, when we talk about primary storage and say that data is stored is temporary, it means data is lost when there is a power failure. It is also called as a temporary memory, that they are very expensive. So in short, we can say that primary memory is also called as the main memory, first point. Second thing is, it is a volatile memory or a temporary memory, means data is stored temporary or for some period of time, and only when the power supply is on, when there is a loss of power supply, then primary storage are not capable to store the data. And third important thing, these are small in size when we compare it with secondary storage, and they are very expensive as compared to secondary storage. So this is a basic difference between primary storage and the secondary storage. Always remember that primary storage is also called as the main memory, and data or set of instructions is stored in primary storage before processing, and After that, data is transferred to ALU where further processing is done. Now when we talk about the primary storage, then basically there are two types of main memory. These are RAM and ROM. Stands for random access memory, and the random access memory, which is also known as the RAM, is generally known as the main memory of the computer system. It is called the temporary memory, and the information stored in this type of memory is lost when the power supply to the PC or the laptop is switched off. So RAM is also called the main memory, and data is uh, data is there when until the power supply is on, and when power supply is off, data is no more in random access memory, and it is a type of primary memory. So this is the definition of a random access memory. Next is ROM. As the name suggests, read only memory. In random access memory, when we talk about the access of a memory, then it simply means that read and write operation. There are only two operations which can be performed over the memory, and these are read operation and write operation. You can perform only read and write operation in memory. Read operation means get data from memory, and write means simply give data to memory. So when we talk about the ROM, that is read only memory, we are not capable of to write data into uh, read read only memory. There is only a read operation. That's why it is called the read only memory or ROM. So ROM stands for read only memory, and ROM is a permanent type of memory. That is the basic difference. Main memory, which is also called as the RAM, is a temporary memory, but ROM is a permanent type of memory, and its content is not lost when the power supply is switched off. That is the basic difference between RAM and ROM. So we can say that ROM is also a non-volatile memory, and the computer manufacturer decides the information of ROM when it is permanently stored at the time of manufacturing, which cannot be overwritten by the user. So computer manufacturer stored the information in ROM, and that information is stored permanently, and that is not overwritten by the user. So that is called the read only memory, because data is we can only read the data, but we are not capable to write the data or overwrite the data into that memory. Next is the secondary storage. The secondary storage is also called as the permanent storage unit, as when the data stored in this memory is stored permanently, user can recall the data whenever they need, and the data remains in this memory even where there is a power supply of or shutdown. They are much cheaper than primary memory. An example is hard disk. So basically two differences are there. First of all, when we compare to the main memory, then data is stored permanently into the secondary storage, and the second thing is uh, they are less expensive as compared to primary memory. And third thing, they still remains there even if the power supply is off, means they are non-volatile memory. So example of the secondary storage is hard disk. Second part is CPU. So here spelling mistake is there. CPU, central processing unit. So CPU is called the brain of the computer, and it is an electronic circuitry that carries out of the instructions given by a common computer. And again, CPU can be sub-classified into two different parts: control unit and arithmetical and logical unit. So first of all, let us talk about control unit. Control unit is responsible for controlling the transfer of the data and instructions among other units of a computer. Second, it manages and coordinates all the unit of a computer. Third, it obtains the instruction from the memory, interprets them, and directs the operations of the computer. Fourth important point, it communicates with the input output devices for transfer of data or results from storage. And last point, it does not process or store data. So first of all, control it, as the name suggests, control the entire operation within the computer system. And it is responsible for controlling the transfer of the data instruction among other units of a computer system. And it manages and coordinates all units of a computer systems. And it communicates regularly with input output devices for transfer of data or result from storage. And the most important thing is it obtains the instruction from the memory and interprets them, converts into machine understandable form, and direct the operation of the computer system. Next is arithmetical and logical unit. So there are two different types of operation, arithmetical operation and logical operation, which are performed by the arithmetical and logical unit. When we talk about the arithmetic operation, it means that addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, these are the arithmetic operations. And logical operation contain basically less than, greater than, less than, equal to, greater than, equal to. These all are the logical operations. So arithmetical and logical unit basically perform arithmetic and logical operations, and this type of operation performed by arithmetic logical unit. Always remember that control unit basically do not perform any type of calculation. It only control the entire operation of the computer system, while arithmetical and logical unit perform different types of calculation. When we talk about the different type of information, it means arithmetic and logical operations, means addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, less than, greater than, less than, equal to, greater than, equal to. So these are the operations which are categorized in the forms of arithmetical and logical operations. That's why it is called the arithmetical and logical unit. Next is functions of a CPU. Now when we combine the functions of a CU and ALU, that is the functions of a CPU, so we can say that CPU controls all the parts of a computer, all the parts and the software and data flow of a computer. Second, it performs all operations. That's why it is called the brain of the computer system. Second, executing programs stored in memory. Next, it stores data either temporarily or permanent basis. And last, it performs arithmetical and logical operations. So these are the different operations of different functions of a CPU, central processing unit. So basically it controls the entire computer systems and flow of data, and it is also responsible for executing the programs stored in the memory. It decides whether the data is stored permanently or temporarily, and it performs arithmetical and logical operations also. So these are the functions of a CPU. Last is output unit. The output unit is a unit that constitutes a number of output devices. An output device is used to show the result of a processing, such as such output device is a monitor. Basic output device is a monitor. Speaker is also an output device. Projector is also an output device. And the function of output device, it accepts data or information sent from main memory of computer, and it converts binary coded information, means human understandable form, machine understandable form, into HLL, high level language, means human understandable form, or inputted language. So we can say that output unit convert data from machine understandable form to human understandable form, and input unit convert data from human understandable form to machine understandable form. So that is all about our today's lecture, in which we discuss about computer system. I hope you are able to understand the all concept of a computer system. Thanks for watching this video.